Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of My Unfair Advantage. Today we're going to talk about action blog posting. And that's just a cool name for creating blog posts that cause the user to take some sort of action, which really is what you want from every article, everything that you do online. Really, you want to cause some sort of action. You want to provoke your reader. You want to create informative posts that provoke the reader to do something, whether it is to read more about you, to subscribe to you, to click the like button, to share the content, to enter their name and email, to buy something, whatever it is that you're wanting them to do. It's important that you structure your blog post, your article, whatever piece of content it is that you're creating in the way that is going to provoke them to take action at the end. So today we're going to talk about how you should do that on your blog, how you should create action-provoking blog posts, or in other words, we're going to talk about action blog posting. So we're going to start by prefacing it with this statement: blogging versus cardiology. Obviously, cardiology, the medical study of the heart, right? A cardiologist is a heart doctor. And here's something that I learned in my many years of medicine, working as a physician's assistant, having graduated from medical school in 1996, having practiced medicine in a neurosurgical clinic for quite a while, having been a paramedic for over 9 years for New York City Fire Department. I can tell you this, and that is, if you were to ask 9 cardiologists to look at a rhythm on the monitor, if you were to print out a cardiac rhythm on a patient, right? If you were to do an EKG or an ECG on a patient, print it out on a strip, and you were to show it to 9 different cardiologists, you would get 9 unique interpretations. And here's the scary part: you'd also get 9 different treatment modalities. Each one of those cardiologists would give you a different method that they would treat that rhythm with. Now, there are certain things that they would all hold in common, obviously, but the reality is that medicine is something we practice, right? It's not an exact science. It is something that we practice. Physicians have a license to practice medicine. So every time you're going to the doctor and asking them to evaluate you and rule something out, he is just practicing on you. You get it? You get my drift? Okay. Well, blogging is no different in the sense that we're basically always practicing. We're always trying to figure out what's going to work. And if you were to ask 9 expert bloggers the best way to create a blog post, you'd probably get 9 completely unique interpretations of what you want and 9 completely different solutions of what you should do. Some people blog for traffic, some people blog for content, some people blog for SEO, some people blog for list building. There's a lot of different reasons why people create blog posts. That's why when someone says to you, well, you should be using keywords in your H1 tags and you should be doing siloing and you should be doing, that person is probably focusing on SEO. Sometimes you'll talk to somebody and they'll say, well, you should be curating everything. Just find other people's blog posts and copy their shit. Yeah, that's what you should. And that guy is obviously trying to get rankings and trying to get traffic, right? These are people that are not necessarily trying to produce content or develop a brand or get a following. So again, you should be very cautious as to what type of advice you're taking when it comes to the content that you're posting on your blog. And what I will tell you is this: you should always blog for people, not for robots, not for search engines. You should blog for people. You should create articles and posts with the end in mind that a person, a human being, is going to be reading this. Your content should be unique, it should be original, it should be provocative, it should be compelling, and it should call on them to take action. And we're going to go over some steps and some good practices in order to create, hopefully, some good habits for you to start repeating over and over again on your blog. And I think it all starts with doing a little bit of research and selecting a provocative topic. Now, when I say provocative, I mean creating a topic that's trendy, that's in demand, that people want to know more about, and that will provoke the user to take an action. I'm not insinuating the other potentially interpreted definitions of the word provocative in the sense where, I don't know, racy or, with sexual undertones or anything like that. That's not the provocative that I'm referring to. But I do, in fact, want you to compel the user. Now, your post is either created to appease or to attract. Okay, so you are either creating a post that is just going to give people a bunch of information and give your current subscribers content and keep them abreast of situations, news, and information that they want, or the post is created to attract new subscribers and to possibly be ranked on search engines and be found by people that might not know you. So these are two completely different schools of thought when it comes to blogging. Are you blogging to appease your current subscribers and give them the stuff they want, or are you blogging to attract new people? And in both cases, you have to write for your specific reader, whether it's for the reader that you're trying to attract or the reader you're trying to appease. You need to write for the reader. You need to create content, do research, and create compelling content that they want to read, that they're going to be interested in reading. Unfortunately, way too many people out there are teaching about blogging. Now, and I don't want to come off like I'm an expert blogger and that's all that I do, because I don't. But blogging is an important part of every internet marketer's business. And the problem with blogging and the way that it's being taught out there is that way too many people are teaching it to be revolving all around keywords and all around search engines and all around search engine domination and SEO and siloing and all that and curation and all that. And you know what? Baloney with all that crap. You have to write for people and you have to write for the reader, which means you need to know the reader. Do some research before you begin and learn what the relevant keywords are for your specific topic. Now, it's good to know some keywords that have to do with that topic. And, you could use Google, you could use trends, there's a million ways that you can find keywords that relate to the topic that you want to talk about. But a keyword is basically a word or a phrase that is currently being typed into the browser around the planet. Okay, so a lot of people seem to be typing that same word into their browser because they're trying to learn more about it. That's a keyword. And depending on how many times it's typed and how many times it's searched is how relevant that keyword is. If your blog post contains a lot of relevant keywords, naturally, there's a chance of it coming up on these searches. Now, a lot of people are out there just creating blogs for the purpose of ranking. This video is not to teach you how to create a blog simply for the purpose of ranking or driving traffic. I don't do that. My blogging is for branding. My blogging is for relationship building. My blogging is for list building and action taking. Okay, so that's what I recommend that you do as well. Unless you have a specific business model where you're just creating blog after blog after blog, and your business model is simply to spit these blogs out 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 a day for the sole purpose of ranking on specific words and driving traffic. And you know what? That's not my thing. That's not what I do. I don't care to do that. I don't teach that. I don't think it's I don't think it's a fun thing to do. It's definitely not the kind of business that I want to get into. And the reason that I kind of shy away from that is that it really creates a business that's dependent on search engines. When you're starting to do that, you're going to have to follow 9 different schools of thought, right? Because this guy that's an expert blogger says you should do it with this H1 tag and this SEO and this other guy saying, no, you got to curate, you got to do this, you got to do that. It's all about the video. It's all about that, and you'll never, and you're doing this just to appease a search engine that could change things in 15 minutes. And guess what? If you've got 100 blogs out there that were built based on an algorithm that a search engine was liking last week, and all of a sudden they change things, now you've got 100 useless blogs that are doing absolutely nothing for you, and you've got a business that isn't making you money because you made it platform dependent. So I don't teach that. I don't do that. I don't think that there's value in that. But there is definitely a lot of merit in having a blog and creating posts that your people are going to want to read. One of the things you should do when you've decided on the topic that you want to write about, you should read some other blog posts on that topic. And the reason that I like to do this is I get an idea of what I would not want to do, and I get some ideas as to what I do want to do. Don't ever, 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 ever copy content. One thing is getting an idea. Another thing is using the copy paste feature. If you're using the copy paste feature to create your content, you're doing something wrong. I don't give a crap if you say, oh, well, it's curate. Curation is just a stupid word that somebody made up for stealing, okay? Curation is not writing for people. Curation is writing for traffic. It's silly as far as I'm concerned. Create your own content, make it good, make it compelling, make it original, make it unique. And you know what? You're going to eventually develop a following. Always be original with your blog posts. Create, don't propagate. Curation is not blogging. That is my personal opinion. There's always going to be somebody, oh no, well, curation is awesome. You know what? If you're curating, what you're doing is you're copying somebody else's work. It takes just as much effort to curate, and then here's the thing: is now there's all kinds of little, oh no, where there's this curation software out there that automatically takes videos from YouTube that somebody else made and turns them into articles for my blog. You know what? Sorry, not the way that I'm going to run a business. I like to read other blog posts just to get ideas for things and to decide whether or not I even want to talk on a topic. And I'm always going to be original with my own blog post, my own content. Now, the only content that isn't original from me on my blog would be that which is provided by a guest author. And I demand that it's original from them. And I confirm that always using a service like Copyscape to make sure that I'm not putting duplicate content on my blog. Not even a little snippet should be duplicate. Anything more than a sentence or two which is being quoted from another blog can come up as duplicate content, which hurts you. It hurts you if you have duplicate content on your site. Okay, so always be original with your blog post. Create, don't propagate. Are you blogging for traffic or are you blogging for branding? This is an important distinction to make. Do you want to build a real solid reader base and a following, or are you just blogging because I'm trying to get traffic to this link and I want to get a whole bunch of people to click on this link because I'm trying to make money? Well, eventually and naturally we're in business to make money, not just because we unless of course you're running a nonprofit organization. But let's be honest, nonprofit organizations also need to make money. The whole purpose of establishing a nonprofit organization is to raise money. So whether you're whether you're blogging for traffic or for branding, in one way or another, making money is going to be involved in the process there, or hopefully is going to be one of the desired outcomes of the blogging. So it's important that you decide, am I going to blog for traffic? Meaning, am I going to create a blog post that is simply meant to drive traffic somewhere? And if so, that blog post should be written accordingly. There should be content. There should be juicy meat in there that is going to make them want to continue getting information from you. That's going to make them want to click on something or take an action. And if you're going to have them take an action, then you need to call on them to do so. Now, if you want to build a real solid reader base, you shouldn't get into the habit of solely creating action type of blog posts. You should also create just content that calls on them to maybe subscribe, or maybe calls on them to read something else on the blog, but doesn't necessarily call on them to go away from your site. So whenever you are sending someone somewhere else, you're eventually going to, get that person to be like, okay, well, I'll just, he wants me somewhere else. I'm just going to stay somewhere else, right? So you want to try to navigate people and send them to places and tell them to take an action within your site, sending them to another post on your site or maybe to another one of your sites. This is the kind of thing that you want to get into the habit of doing. And there's different names for it. It's been called different things throughout. Now it's being called siloing or whatever. But who knows what it's called by the time you're reading this. So I want to go into planning. I want to talk a little bit about planning with a purpose. When you create your blog post, you always want to plan your post with a specific purpose in mind. Always call the reader to some sort of an action at the end. But again, that action can be, to read another blog post, for instance, maybe to subscribe to you, maybe to watch a video, maybe you want him to do something other than just surf away. You want to train the reader to do what you say, right? So it's important that you write with that purpose. So when you sit down to start, to think about, well, okay, well, what am I going to write about? And it's more important to say, well, why am I writing about this? Are you posting to increase pleasure or to decrease pain? Now, as humans, we do things for one of two reasons, and that's either to increase pleasure or to decrease pain. I'm not going to get into the whole Maslow's hierarchy of needs and that whole discussion with you. That's another webinar. But it is important for you to realize that people are going to watch TV shows because they're fun or because they're educational. And when you can do them both, that's awesome. That's really, really going to cause people to be more engaged. People tend to do things because they increase the fun angle, the amount of fun that they're having in their lives, or they take away some sort of pain, some sort of trouble that they're having. What purpose is your post going to serve in the reader's life? Is it going to make things better for them, or is it going to take away something that's bothering them? Are you going to teach them a way to resolve a problem? Or maybe you're just posting something that's going to add fun to their lives. It's going to entertain them. People do things just for entertainment, right? And it's important for you to have that purpose in mind when you're planning your blog post. So confront them with a challenging headline in the beginning that encapsulates your keyword or your phrase. Some technical writing there. Encapsulation. So what you want to do basically is start with some sort of a challenge. Now, headlines need to be headlines, meaning you need to use the headline tag in your WordPress editor, okay? And you can actually go into the editor and you can select from a little drop-down menu up at the top of the editor that selects which type of tag. Is this a headline? Is this a subheadline? Is this H1, H2, H3, is it a paragraph, right? Well, you want to make sure that your headlines are called headlines in the editor. And you want to make sure that if you've chosen a couple of keywords or phrases, that you're using those keywords or phrases in your headlines and in your subheadlines, and that you are repeating them at least once or twice in your content. This is important if you want to get ranked and if you want to get some traffic from the search engines. I do not become a slave to these rules. I write for people, not for robots. But it's important that you confront people with a challenging headline, okay? Right at the beginning. Challenge them. Get them to look at your headline and be like, what? And like stop them in their tracks. You want it to be some sort of a pattern interrupt, so to speak. And you want it to contain your keyword or key phrase. Remember that search engines look for those H tags, and you should format your blog post accordingly, but you shouldn't become a slave to these rules because they could change in 15 minutes. So don't become a slave to that. Always blog for people, not for search engines. That's what I teach. That's what I tell my students. Write good, compelling, awesome content that people want to read, and you will never have to worry about traffic. You will never have to worry about building a following, building a list, and building a brand, because you're not a slave to a search engine and you're not building a platform-dependent business. That is why I teach it that way. Here's another thing that's important. I've seen some train wrecks out there. You want to create eye-soothing structure within your blog post. And that starts with just making the post look good. Make it look organized and easy to read by breaking it up into sections. Now, a lot of this has to do with the specific blog theme that you're using. Some themes are a lot more eye-soothing than others. Some of them already have little features and little short codes and things for you to format your post nicely. And what I've found in my experience is that minimalist themes, meaning the less fancy schmancy stuff you got going on your theme, the more compelling and the more, I don't know, for some reason, just the more attractive they're going to be. They just seem to work better. If your theme looks like Times Square, it's got a million things going on, a bunch of crazy colors jumping out all over the place, it's going to tend to actually have less of an impact. And usually this happens on a blog when it's a newer person and they think that every single thing that is, every single little thing that's on the blog is the most important thing. So they want the reader attention to be grabbed to every little thing on the blog, right? So they make this thing blink, and oh, this is important too, so I'm going to boldface that. Oh, and this is important, so I'm going to highlight that. Oh, and I want them to read this page, so I want to make a big banner. Oh, no, and it just ends up looking like Times Square with a bunch of billboards on it, right? And that's the worst thing that you can do for it's the most, I don't know, it's kind of like walking into a car dealership and you got 10 car salesmen, vultures, just like, preying on you. You want to make the post look nice, you want to make it organized, and you want to make it easy to read. And like I said, sometimes this has to do with the theme that you're using, but you want to split things up in the post. Maybe put a space between each paragraph. Maybe use a nice sub-headline to break sections up and make it easier to read, follow, understand. Use an outline type of format. Use bullet points when you're using actual little bullet images. And here's something that's really, really important. Use a stunning post image at the top of the blog post. Use a really cool image that somehow it somehow captures the spirit of the blog post. It's somehow, this image should somehow get, remember, the mind thinks in pictures. So if you've got an image at the top of that blog post that kind of just ingrains or brands an idea, a thought, an image into the head of the reader as they're reading your post is going to be much more engaging to them. It's going to be much more effective. Start with the challenge or the problem. I said this before, and this could be something more than likely. Hopefully, it's something that the reader's actually facing. And you could start it with a paragraph, a headline, something. But this section in the beginning, it should open a story. And that's the important point that I want to make here. Yeah, you want to have a challenging pattern interrupt types of headline, but you want to go into a story. Stories are really what draw people in. Write as if you're writing a story. You're not writing a reference novel, like a reference book here. And you want to keep people on your website. You want to bore them to death. So it's important that you inject your personality into the post as well. You're not writing a reference book. Your opinions and humor will go a long way in blogging. It's the reason that people go to omarmartin.com. It's because they want to hear me. They want to hear Omar Martin talk about XYZ. They can do a Google search for XYZ and get, thousands of results. But if they're on my blog, it's because they want to hear my take on it. It's because I inject my own personality into my writing, and this is what you lose when you're just curating. This is why, curating isn't a form of building a brand and engaging and compelling. And like I said, you want to write for people, not for search engines. Don't be afraid to inject your personality into the post. I am myself when I write. I'm not a stickler for grammar. As a matter of fact, sometimes I purposely misspell things to make a phonetic impression. Sometimes I do multiple periods to simulate a pause. I do things in my blog post that people become accustomed to in my writing style. It literally becomes my writing style. And I definitely inject human, emotion and my opinion and humor into my blog posts. I recommend that you do the same because it'll go a long way in your branding. Now, it's important that regardless of what the end, it's got to be, the user has to find the post useful. Okay, it could be as entertaining as you want it to be, but it's got to be useful. If it isn't useful in one way or another, and I'm not saying that entertainment isn't useful, but if you want to get them to keep coming back and you want to build your brand, you got to provide useful solutions, and they have to be in a modular format. Keep things down to 5 steps. One of the worst things that can happen is you provide a really good answer to a problem that somebody might be having, but then when they get to your site and they see your post, it just looks too complicated. And it's like, crap, I got to read this whole thing. This guy's got 32 steps to solving this problem. Come on, it's got to be easier. Keep it simple. Keep it modular. When you say to somebody on a title, hey, here's the 3 steps to curing acne. Wow, that's awesome. Okay, so that's simple. 3 things. All I got to do is 3 things. Now those 3 things might have 3 things within each of them. It's like 3A, 3B, 3C. But again, you want to keep it modular like that because again, it needs to be in an outline. It has to be easy to follow. You can't just do one huge long run-on sentence that's going to solve every problem they ever had because that again, it looks like work. It's got to be simple. You got to keep it down to, I've found that 5 has been a number for me that works well. Keeping things down in no more than 5 steps, 5 modules, 5 sections, 5 paragraphs. I like doing things in 5. As a matter of fact, as you can see here by my bullets, I usually have 5 bullets per slide, right? So more than that, it just kind of looks like hard work, and it just looks like a whole bunch of stuff, spaghetti thrown on the wall. Consider adding a YouTube video to the post. This will serve you well in terms of traffic, but moreover, it's going to help you with engagement because media compels. I've been talking about this since I started online years and years and years ago, whether it's audio in the form of a podcast or whether it's video and you just throw a YouTube video on there and you do something like what I've done here with Keynote, or if you get on camera and you record something. It doesn't have to be super duper professional. As a matter of fact, if you're branding yourself on your blog, it shouldn't be too professional. You want to relate with people, and sometimes just holding your phone out in front of you and recording something or talking about something is a very, very powerful way to compel people because it shows them that you're human. So use media and throw a YouTube video in in your post every once in a while. It's definitely going to help. So here's the important thing that I wanted to talk about when it comes to action blogging, right? have a powerful close. And the powerful close is done by summarizing your thoughts, giving them a conclusion, and then giving them having a discernible beginning, middle, and end. They need to know it's the end of the post. They need to know it's the beginning of the post because you're starting the story. The middle is where you're giving them the modular content, A, B, C, D. Step 1, step 2, step 3, and the end is the summary. So this is what you've learned. This is what you should do next. Every blog post should have a discernible beginning, middle, and end. Okay? You need to summarize your thoughts and give them a conclusion at the end. Add an action box. So many people miss this very important step of blogging. Add an action box to the end of every single blog post that you write. Now, I'm going to recommend that you use this plugin. You can get it at myunfairadvantage.net/go/action box. And I'm going to show you how you can use it to create an action box in a minute here. But an action box is just that. It's a box at the end of each blog post that calls on them to take an action. That action could be to buy something, to subscribe to something, to go visit something, but it is clearly separate. It stands out from the post. It is a box with a border, with a background color or texture, with text that is different than that they've been reading. It stands out. It is a box where they're going to take an action. Tell them what you want them to do next. And this is, so many people drop the ball on this. Remember, every single blog post should be written with an end in mind. What do you want them to do? Don't just assume that they're going to love you forever and keep coming back to your blog and reading. Provide them with instructions. Tell them what they need to do next. Tell them what the next step in your relationship with them is, and tell them to take that step. Here's something that I like to do a lot throughout the post and even at the action box sometimes. If you're thinking, well, Omar, I don't really have a website that I want them to go to at the end. I don't really have anything to sell them. They're already a member of my list. Okay, then do some siloing, as it's called nowadays, right? Cross-link to other content within your very blog by simply linking a relevant word or a phrase to another post, right? So let's say we're writing a blog post about list building, and in a section of my list building blog post, I talk about how you can build your list by creating videos. So maybe the word creating videos, those two words, that phrase, creating videos, maybe I can highlight that and link to another post that I had written in the past about making videos. So at the very end of my post about list building, I might have an action box that calls on them to go and read the post about videos. And guess what? While they're there reading that post about videos, that action box is going to call on them to do something else, and so on and so forth. You are providing an experience now for your visitor. Your visitor is here at your site and they're finding useful resources. Your visitor is going from post to post because you're telling them to, because you're calling them to action with your action box. Inspire them to leave a comment and to share your post. That's another thing that you can tell them to do in an action box. And you should actually do this at the end of every post, to be honest with you. There's lots of social sharing plugins out there for you to choose from. I'm not going to endorse it. I'm using ShareBar at the time. I used to use Shareaholic there. New ones come out all the time. Again, I'm not going to create a platform-dependent business. I'm used to. I'm open to trying any new things that come out. But the important thing is that you have a social component to your blog and to your blog post. Inspire them to leave a comment and to share your post. How do you do that? Well, you tell them to. Let them know that you care. Let them know that you want to hear what they have to say. Let them know that you will respond to their comments if they leave one below, and ask them to invite their friends to come and read this post. Make it easy for them with a little a little button for Facebook, or tweet this, or whatever. There's like a gazillion social networks that they could share on now. So again, you want to create a powerful close, and you want to add an action box on your. And we're going to talk a little bit about that plugin at myunfairadvantage.net/go/action box. But let's wrap this up right here by just basically saying this. You want to blog often, especially in the beginning of your online career. Your blog is the centerpiece of your online universe. It's how you communicate with the world, really. It's the way people get to know you. It's the way people decide whether or not they like you and want to continue to be part of what you're sharing. In the beginning of your online career, you should blog every single day. You should create a blog post every single day. I think I did this for at least 6 months, or at least 4 months, between 4 and 6 months, I would have to say. I used to blog every single day. Got to the point that I was like, man, what the heck am I going to talk about today? But I would blog every single day. It gets you into the habit of writing, and you want to write, and that's another thing. You want to write about multiple topics and create categories on your blog, right? Eventually, you're going to find one specific thing that your blog is going to become about and that you're going to like to write about most often. But in the beginning, you're going to want to write about multiple topics, but separate them into categories. Perhaps if you're into internet marketing, you have one category that's all about product reviews. Maybe you have another category that's all about list building, one that's about traffic, one's about the video production. I don't know. You just want to separate them into nice, neat little packages. Most themes offer some category widgets and things like that where you could lump certain posts into there, and as your portfolio of blog posts starts increasing, you can tag those and put those into those categories. Share your blog posts. That's another thing a lot of people don't do. When you create a new blog post, tell people about it. Put it on your Facebook, put it on Twitter, maybe email your list about it if you have some people. But you want to spread it across social media and use action plugins to make your blog more dynamic. I'm going to talk to you about one of those action plugins right now. This is one that I've started using recently, and there's a lot of cool different applications. The thing that I like most about using this Magic Action Box plugin is that you can modify things, really, really, really intensely if you want to. So I'm going to go ahead and switch over to my browser and show you what I'm talking about. Okay, so here I am on the inside of my blog at omarmartin.com, and here is the Action Box plugin. It's already installed, and I'm just going to click over here on Action Boxes so you can kind of see what I mean by Action Boxes. Now, I have 2 of them created at the moment, and I created these Action Boxes actually for some guest authors that I have on my blog, and I'm going to show you what they look like. Your Action Box has some settings. You could set a style, and I'm going to show you first of all what they look like. So let's actually go to a blog post. I'm going to come to one of these blog posts here. This is a blog post by Sandy Halliday, and she actually wrote this blog post about SEO for my blog. It's all original content, and she talked about different things on there. And then at the end, I created this action box using the Magic Action Box plugin. And this plugin allows me to put an image, some text, and it literally creates this web form. I could copy Sandy's web form, drop it into there, and the Action Box plugin automatically formats things. I modified this. I chose the color, I chose the dash border, I chose the way that this looks. I added the image, and it's relatively easy to do. And there's so many different settings. And I'll give you an example. Like if I click on this particular one, Sandy Halliday subscription box, I just click that little edit button, and now I can copy and paste Sandy's web form code that she gave me from her Aweber. Boom, and I just paste it on there, and it automatically, I click process code, and it automatically removes all the crap that I don't need from Aweber, and it just creates the stuff that I need. Then I can make some selections. I could put in the content that I want to say. So I wanted it to link to Sandy's blog. I wanted it to have some a little narrative that she gave me. Down here, I can select, do I want the image to the left? Do I want it to the right? Where do I want the opt-in form? If I want to add a video, I can add a video to that. Then it gets a little bit more intense. If I come over here and I click on the actual Action Box settings, I can come over here to styles. And the cool thing is that I have the author style. So I have an author box, and then there's a default style. You can create as many styles as you want. So let's say that I want to edit this style. I can come in and edit every part of this thing. So right now, you can see the background color. That's the background color that I chose. I can click here and choose any other background color, and I can quickly turn that to red or black or whatever. I can click the border color. I can click if I want it dashed, if I want it double border, if I want it solid. So I'm going to click double border right now, and I'm just going to click Save Style. And then I'm going to come back over here, and I'm going to refresh this to see if it made that change to that action box. So let's scroll down, and that's a double border. So you see how it's a solid border now. I guess I didn't make it big enough to show 2 lines, but I can go back and switch it, and you can make all these modifications to this web form. Now, if I wanted to change the content, the text of the content, the color, the size, the font, the way that links show, this is the color that I want for links. This is the color that I want when they're being hovered over. And there is a link in hers. If you notice, see that when I hover over her URL, it turns into the color that I designated. I can also modify the headline size, color. I can modify the subheadline size, color, and all these other values. How about the actual form itself? The size of the email, input form. So this part right here that says email, the border, the color, the background, what happens when it's clicked on. Notice how when you hover over subscribe, it changes the color of the subscribe text from white to dark green, the color of the background from orange to green, and all of that is set right here. As you can see, the orange, the green, I selected all these colors, so it's very, very versatile. Lots of stuff you can do with this, and you can create a whole bunch of these. How about the aside, right? So this is where I selected the the color for the aside content, the border that it's going to have. Let's say I wanted that side content, meaning this right here. See how it has a little thin gray border? What if I wanted that border to be black? What if I wanted it to be black? I'll just come down here. I'll select the black color. I'll click Save Style. And now I'll come over here and that aside image. Let's say you were giving away an ebook or something. That could be an ebook. That could be, whatever. I could click Refresh, and that now should turn to a black border around her, and it didn't. So I probably did something wrong. Then I save my style border 1 pixel. This is transparent. Let's go 2 pixels and see if maybe I did this wrong, which I hope I didn't. Let's refresh. And it's not changing, so I must be doing something wrong. There must be some other setting here that I am not looking at, that I'm probably overlooking. But again, you can play with this, and you can even add custom CSS. So if you don't want to use their specific settings, lots and lots of little things to play with. As a matter of fact, it took me about, I would say, 30 minutes of messing around with it to get it to look the way that I wanted to look. And the cool thing about it is once you get your styles set up, you can save them. And you can apply those styles to different things. Now, I'm just in the Edit Styles button. You can, in the Edit Styles section, you can also edit buttons and have default buttons that you use all the time. Just a whole bunch of different things that you could do with action boxes here. Now, here's the other cool thing. I'm going to go to a post that maybe doesn't have one. So let me come over to my blog and let me go and just select a blog post, like let's say Still in the Dark Ages. So I'm going to come down here and click on Still in the Dark Ages post. And this was a post that I had written myself about Easy Video Suite. And down here, I just had a banner at the bottom taking people to Easy Video Suite, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to edit this post, and I'm going to add an action box down at the bottom. So at this post here, you'll see how it has the magic action box thing here. I'm just going to say use default. Notice this drop down says it gives me an option to choose any of the action boxes that I've created. So I have the Sandy Holiday box, I have the Steve Martinelli one, that's another guest author, but I'm just going to use the default one. And you can, do all kinds of stuff here. I'm just going to kind of just select this, and I'm going to just hit update just to show you what a default one would look like and how it's going to add it to the bottom of the post. Let me make sure that I did have it set to add to the bottom, because you also can add it to the top. So yeah, it's after the content, okay, and it's adding the default one. So let's see what that did. I'm going to click view the post, and let's see what that did. I'm going to scroll down to the bottom and refresh, and hopefully it added it. And I think you need to have a style for it to add it. Yeah, I don't have a style for it, so it's not adding it. So that was a bad example to make. Let me go and select. I'm going to go and edit the post, and I'm going to go and select a different one. So one that I've already created a style for. So I'm going to select Steve Martinelli's subscription. Now, even though he didn't write this post, I'm going to click update, and hopefully now when we view the post, we should see the Steve Martinelli box down at the bottom. And as you can see, it added this Steve Martinelli box that's down below. So you can go and create your own box, and you would then be able to add it to each post or remove, and modify it. Very, very in depth. There's and this, by the way, this plugin is free, and you can use this thing. They obviously have a lot of additional things that you can do if you buy their pro version, and then I think they have an ultimate version too. But I definitely recommend that you download this plugin. It's called Magic Action Box. You can get it at myunfairadvantage.net/go/action box. And you'll be able to start playing around with this thing and actually, start creating some action boxes for your posts that are going to compel people to do something whenever they read your post. And hopefully you can use this to build your list, to send people to other websites and to other posts from within your own blog. So start doing these things right now. It's the kind of stuff that creates a more dynamic website and creates more purpose for your blog and helps you build your brand, establish a better relationship with your viewer, with your reader, and just build your business. So take action today on creating action posts and blogging with purpose, and download this plugin, install it on your blog, and start creating action boxes for the end of your posts. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Take care.